Do you want to be the best 40k player that the world has ever seen? No, not really. I don't really like competitive. Great news, because today I'm going to teach you how to be the goddamn best player ever, so you can go to any game or any event and have a fantastic time playing some good old games of 40k, Age of Sigmar, Mesbook, or whatever other game system you play that you keep yelling at me to look at. I've been playing 40k for an incredibly long time, 3 whole years, and I've been to a whopping 6 tournaments. That's more than you can count on one hand if you have an above average number of fingers. As a quantifiable expert, I am fully qualified to teach you how to be the best. Wait. Before all you narrative players start to leave, just hold on a second, because this advice will be useful for you as well. Yes, I do more glazing than Safestyle UK when it comes to the competitive tournament scene, but that's just because I have genuinely enjoyed my time at these competitive events. But just like all double glazed windows and doors, I'm offering a buy one, get one free offer on tabletop gaming advice, as this advice works for both the competitive and narrative player. I remember this is going to go over a lot of people's heads, isn't it? How many people even remember that? Does anyone out there remember those ads?
You know the one. You buy one, you get one free. I said you buy one, you get one free.
Whatever happened to that guy? Oh no. You're here to be the best player, but what does that really mean? Can the guy who plays 80 Centurions with a 50% win rate really give you advice on how to be the top of the rankings? No. Of course not. If you want to learn how to actually win, I have another video for that. This is how to be the best player, which is different from being the best player. In terms of ranking, look, yes, I've purposely made this horrifically ambiguous to make a point. Being the best player is not the same as being the best player. The reason I've enjoyed all my games is because my opponents have always been excellent people to play against. Yes, even Steve. And your experience at events, whether that is a narrative or a competitive event, is defined by the people you interact with. Let's do a quick little exercise. In the comments right now, tell me your top 3 reasons as to why you play your chosen game. I'll give you between, I don't know, 30 and 60 seconds to think about it. Write your comment, and while you're down there, subscribe. And whilst you think about it, this seems like a really convenient time frame to tell you all about the Mad Case 2.0 from table.stronghold.com. Yeah, that's right. I'm still finding all new convoluted ways to careen wildly into a sponsor. It's a big box you put small dudes in. It's the Mag Case 2.0. Store all your stuff with the strength of wood. Move the trays to fit things, big or small, and keep them still with the raw might of magnets. Right now, there is sale. You pay less with code Paul25 and get it free right to your door if you live here, or here. It's a shame I can't do the whole ad with just small words, because I have to say thanks to table.stronghold.com for all the help, and those words are too big. So is magnets, I guess, but I had to say that or I will die. I don't know why I thought this was a good plan for an ad, but here we are. Click the link pinned down there in the text to get the good box. Now back to the vid. EO. Okay, so what are your top 3 reasons for playing your game? Here are mine. Number 3, I play it because I enjoy it. And the more games I play, the more I get to explore the game that I like. It's why I go to tournaments, really. Tournaments are a convenient place to play the game I like with other people who also like the game. It's also an opportunity to play against a wider range of different armies from many different people. Speaking of people, the second reason that I play this game is to hang out with and meet cool people. See people's creativity, talk about their experiences, and learn from them, and just generally talk about the thing we both like. And number 1, have fun. Some may be surprised to find that my top 3 reasons does not contain what some people seem to think is the obvious and only reason to play 40k the way I do, which is more competitively, and that's to win. From my narrative video, I got a lot of comments around the point I made about narrative players not caring about winning or losing. My point was that you do care about winning and losing, right? Because that's why you play the game. You're trying to win for your side. But in the minds of narrative players, it's the journey, not the destination, that is important. And I can see that side of it. Winning or losing matters a lot less than telling a story or playing on a more interesting and interactive battlefield and more narratively fulfilling missions. I've seen quite a few comments saying that for competitive, winning is the only important thing, which is why the meta is so widely followed.
Elfic ruins are the only thing in the world that actually matters.
But that really isn't the case. The reason I can see that side of it is because it's the same from the competitive side. The journey is still more important than the destination of purely winning and losing. If it was just purely about winning, competitive would be a whole lot less popular. Every player is going to lose at least once. So if people were only there to win, they've chosen a really weird place to do it. This part of the video might make me look very silly if all the comments have their number 1 choice as winning, but I'm pretty confident that very few people are actually going to have winning as their number 1 reason to play 40k or whatever game they play. I also now realize by saying this, I'm going to have a lot of people making winning their number 1 choice as a joke to completely invalidate my point, making the whole comment exercise from a minute ago completely pointless. Still, I think my advice for being the best player should stand. So if you want to be the best player, there's 3 big pieces of advice I can give you. Get good at being a loser. Remember why you're actually playing. And realize that tabletop war games are cooperative. 40k, whether narrative or competitive, is in some respects a co-op game. The chances are, if you're a relatively seasoned player, you're already playing this way, but it isn't something that I've really seen discussed explicitly as Warhammer being a co-op game. At the very least, tabletop games are a social experience, and society itself could be seen as a co-op game. Okay, that sentence makes me sound like a complete wanker, but you know what I mean, right? At the very least, at the basic level, you're interacting with another person, and that social part is necessary to be able to play a game of something like 40k. The main reason I think that these games are co-op games is that even for a game like 40k 10th edition, which has been simplified, tabletop war games are still very, very complicated. I'd wager that in the history of all war games, there has never been a single one that has been played without at least one mistake being made, either through a misunderstanding, a misremembering, or forgetting something, or moving something slightly wrong. I mean, think about it. How many times have you played a game and gone, bollocks, I forgot I could do that. And then you add the possibility of all the different factions and their data sheets and all the interactions they could possibly have with other factions into the mix, and your chances of actually understanding everything drastically go down.
And then you add Kurt Angle to the mix.
So when you're playing a game, you're working together to ensure that both you and your opponent are able to make decisions and play the game with all the information they should have without forcing one another to try and keep literally everything in their heads. Helping your opponent by reminding them of what you are able to do will allow them to use their time and brainpower on playing the game and not just trying to remember a bunch of stuff that may be new to them. And if you're not doing that, you're being an arsehole. Stop it. Get some help. But it can't be fully cooperative. At some point, you have to play the game and make your own decisions and potentially make your own mistakes. Otherwise, you and your opponent are just playing both armies, and that's not what you're here for. But how do you balance that? I've got a good number of examples here from recent games to demonstrate when and when not to be cooperative and how cooperative you can or maybe should be. All 3 of these games are from my last Winchester RTT, which was back in... oh god, June. Nah, that was a long time ago. My first game was against Deathguard, run by Tom, who was a super nice guy. And I must state for the record that despite this tournament being played just before the balance date, and there were like 6 Deathguard players, because Deathguard's really good right now, Tom was there before it was cool and has been a long-time Deathguard player with an awesome army with some proper old-school models, and also these very tall shit-spewing turbo blight haulers. And a quick side note, Tom was also very upfront about them being overly tall and ensured that they were being played as if they were normal height. He wasn't trying to model for advantage, which is very easily done because Tom is a reasonable person. People who are modeling for advantage probably aren't spending the time making diarrhea jetpacks with their models, and that's a sentence I never want to repeat. The only thing that really makes Tom an arsehole is that he managed to stay on the same table the whole bloody tournament and not have to move, lucky bastard. I had to do a proper run around to get to each of my games, but hey, at least I had my Mac Case 2.0 from table. Tom did demolish me. Those stinky lads are built like brick shithouses, emphasis on the shit. But there were some very good examples of when to help and when not to help in this game. There's some very basic ones that I apply to every game I play, reminders of stratagems and other rules. Any movement near or around my incursors, I always like to remind my opponent of the mine, which allows me at the start of any phase to throw a mine for some mortal wounds. Sometimes I'll state it and then forget about it when the actual time comes, and when I do remember, people generally do allow me to throw it slightly out of sequence, and I do that for my opponents as well. That's some very basic co-op there, letting your opponent know of something they may not remember if they're not familiar with your army, and also letting your opponent do a thing they stated but may have forgotten to do because of other things. Another good example here is Tom letting me know about his Plague Marine party wagon, which is something he had in strategic reserves and could bring on the board at any point. The cooperative part is telling me what it does, and also reminding me that it is still a thing he has access to. But what he doesn't help me with correctly is exactly how to prevent it. Tom is not going to tell me where to move my units to best screen out his rhino. That's on me. There's also nothing Tom can do to really help in terms of just understanding how deadly something is in practice. I knew what that Plague Marine party bus could do, but I very much miscalculated how deadly that made them, and I only really realized when they destroyed 9 Centurions in one turn. Ouch. The biggest cooperative moment, though, was when I realized I'd completely buggered up my movement phase, and by deciding not to use Insane Bravery, or rather forgetting that it was a thing, I'd completely screwed myself for my secondaries, and Tom was gracious enough to allow me to roll that back, use Insane Bravery despite having rolled and failed my check, and redo my movement to get a better chance of scoring. Now, this might be a controversial one, and this isn't one I'd expect from everyone, but this is a good example of where you have to use your own intuition. I didn't even consider using Insane Bravery. I just rolled my Battle Shock check and failed it, and later in my movement phase I realized I had access to it and it would have actually really helped. If I had considered it but decided not to use it, then failed the roll, rolling that back based on the dice roll to my other thought would not be fair. That, I believe, is a key difference. If you consciously make a decision to not use something and it backfires, that's a decision you've made with all of the data you had access to. But if you missed out on a potential path because you forgot about it, that's more of a blurred line. And that blurred line also depends on a few other factors like game state, experience differences between the players, and general vibes. I don't want to speak for Tom here, but he's definitely a better, more experienced player than I am. Tom also ended up finishing third at this event. If Tom just wanted to win, he'd just let me live with my mistake. And honestly, he's well within his right to do that. But like most people I've played against, Tom isn't just here to win. He wants to play for fun, have an interesting game of 40k, and allowing me to undo that mistake for a better chance of staying in the game allows me to learn something, allows him to have to play around my now better board state, and keeps things more fun for both of us. To be fair, even if he didn't allow that take back, it wouldn't have soured the game. This one is really on a knife's edge. It was my mistake, and that'd be up to me to try and navigate and to learn from. But Tom recognized that this was something I clearly could have done and should have considered, but didn't. So allowing me the opportunity to learn was really an excellent showing from Tom. And now for the opposite, here's a good example of when not to be cooperative. Tom had actually made a mistake at one point when moving some of his units to get line of sight. He'd left his home objective open, and I have Shrike. This is a really great example of Tom seeing something that I could do, but not telling me, because telling me is playing the game for me. We both have the same information here. We both can see the board state. In the end, though, it was a 44 to 93 defeat, but still a great game. Game 2 was against Matt with his creations of vile Nightlord's army. Matt was a super nice guy. This was a great game that came down to literally the final roll. I've been in that position before, and last time it did not go my way, but this time it was an extremely close back and forth match, with Matt getting a decent start with his fast-moving units to cage me in, but not able to keep me down enough. My final turn was a huge swing in primary. At the end of Matt's 5th round, he had 32 points on the primary, and I had 14. But with a lot of Matt's front line now gone, and many of my Centurions still around, I was able to push up the board and claim the big 15 at the end of my final round, with the victory being secured by a single advance roll from my wonderful devastated Centurions. I needed to roll a 5, and I rolled a 6. On the floor. So I rolled a dice in the tray this time and got a 5. Just managing to get enough OC2 Centurions towing onto the objective to take it off Matt's Nightlords. The best example of cooperation here was with Cypher, who has an aura of 12 inches to increase the cost of stratagems used by 1. We'd been back and forth about Cypher throughout the game. He was trying to get him into useful positions without exposing him. Sometimes that was possible, sometimes it wasn't. And later into the game, he went to charge one of my units, and I reminded him of my retreating stratagem. He checked Cypher's range, and it was 12.1 inches away, just out of range. But seeing as we'd been discussing Cypher and denying my stratagems through the turn, I basically said, yeah, I mean, he's barely moved and you can just put him against the wall. So move him, it denies my strat, and we can move on. Again, this is not something that is a requirement in a game, as it was a legitimate mistake, but this was clearly something that Matt was intending, and we'd been discussing it a lot. Could I have argued the toss about the fact he hadn't moved it? I mean, yeah, but what's the point? It slows down the game. I know he can do it and what he meant to do, and he probably would have done it if he'd thought about it more and remembering my stratagem. And the game is more interesting when playing against someone's full potential and not playing against their minor mistakes. In the end, a 77 to 72 victory for me. Very, very close. Came down to the wire in both of points and also time. I think we had like 30 seconds to make our scores. It was a very close one. The final game of the tournament was against Josh with his Orc Warhorde. Josh was a super nice guy, of course, and whilst this game didn't go great, it was still a fun one. Josh is a very seasoned player and plays for the team Mind Goblins, same team as my first Wardies opponent from the Super Major, Adam. If you saw that video, you might remember that I mentioned Adam knew my Vanguard Spearhead list because it was something he'd played a lot in a previous tournament, so he was very well versed for anything I could throw at him. Well, in order to practice that army, he has to play against someone, right? Yeah, that person was Josh. Despite the mismatch and the complete shellacking, Josh was an excellent opponent and provided an excellent example of cooperative play. He asked if I'd ever played against Ghazghkull Thraka before, which I hadn't. So when it came down to trying to take out the biggest, baddest, greenest son of a bitch in the galaxy, Josh basically taught me through how to actually defeat him and his Meganob entourage without coming a cropper to the seemingly innocuous but tricky Makari. If you're someone who doesn't know how Ghazghkull Thraka works, and specifically doesn't quite understand how Makari works, you might end up wasting a lot of valuable firepower and be unable to actually actually kill Gaz. So what is the interaction here? Gaz, Thracker, and Makari. They are a single unit which can lead Mega Knobs. When the Mega Knob bodyguard dies, Gaz and Makari become a single unit again. Josh has Gaz leading 2 Mega Knobs. So they need to die first before I can get onto Makari. Once they're gone, Josh can then decide which model in the Gaz Makari unit to take the damage on. And Makari has a 2+ invulnerable save. So in order to take out this unit properly, you have to do it in a very specific order. First, take out the Mega Knobs. This isn't that hard for me, especially with my myriad of Centurions. A squad of 3 Devastators with at the moment can deal with them quite handily. Next, you have to take out Makari. And this is the part that Josh made sure I understood. It might be tempting at this point to just shoot all of the big stuff at Gaz. But if I fire 6 las cannons, they could all be negated by Makari. On average, 1 will go through, but that could be the first las cannon, or it might be the last one. And if it's the last one, I've just wasted 5d6 plus 5 damage that could have been used on the big lad. So how do you take out Makari? There's a couple of options here. One is mortal wounds. I had a unit with grenades nearby, so chucking that out first will, hopefully, do at least 1 mortal wound and kill Makari. Josh cannot put that wound on Gaz because, well, I mean, technically he could, but once Gaz is injured, all subsequent wounds must be assigned to Gaz as the wounded model of the unit. Option 2 would be weight of fire. Makari only has 1 wound, so firing an absolute truckload of shots will eventually get 1 through his invuln save. And after Makari is gone, you can then just pump all the big fire plant directly into Gaz's skull. Which I did. I mean, look, yes, Gaz was basically one of the few things I actually managed to kill, but we take those, okay? It's these kinds of more detailed aspects where trying to hold all that information in your brain is realistically just not possible, and the cooperation comes in because you and your opponent can share that information between you and provide the information willingly to best spread that mental load. I don't need to learn the entirety of the Ork Codex, so I would know what every unit's profile and weapons are, but Josh knows what his stuff does and can be the source of that information. And with that information, I can make the best decisions, and those decisions are mine. I may never have played against a Gaz. I may never have had to know this, but Josh had that information, and when it became relevant, shared it freely to ensure the game was fair. He could have just not told me what Gaz does and what his data sheet is, and I would then just have to go look it up myself, which slows the game down and makes it less fun, so there's no point. This kind of playing the game probably sounds very familiar to you, and isn't exactly new, and frankly is the expected way to play. I've used these examples from tournaments because first, they're good examples, but also because these 3 opponents are people I've never met before, and all 3, and in fact all my opponents have ever played, act basically the same as this, whether that's at a tournament, a friendly game, narrative game. I really do believe that the attitude of winning is the only thing that matters for competitive is objectively false. Yes, there is going to be win at all cost arseholes out there. I'm not denying that, but those people aren't tournament players exclusively. They're just... well, they're arseholes. I don't like to feed into the internet hate machine, but you've all likely heard stories about 40k tournament players or players in local scenes that are just that kind of arsehole. But those kind of stories about selfish pricks who are trying to do everything in their power just to get a win or a one-up over someone else, those stories aren't exclusive to 40k. Or tabletop gaming for that matter. Those stories exist for fucking Dungeons and Dragons, D&D, a narrative experience, a tabletop RPG. Grognards exist in a game which has absolutely no benefit for winning. It's a game where you just go on adventures with a group of friends to fight monsters. Those selfish dickheads who play like that in D&D are the same people who are playing like that in 40k, or another tabletop RPG, or Magic the Gathering, or Fortnite, or getting a parking space. They're the kind of person who doesn't put their trolley back at the supermarket. You know, the worst scum in the universe. Sometimes I hear people talk about competitive players taking meta lists to narrative events and stomping, and I don't think that's a competitive player thing. That's just a dickhead thing. Okay, so being the best player isn't about being the most skilled at the game. It's about being an enjoyable opponent and ensuring that the game is fun for both sides. Let's talk about the other 2 points on how to be the best player. Why you're playing and being a good loser. Now, I have a lot of experience in being a massive loser. Saying that you should be a good loser is easy enough, but honestly, as much as I've talked about winning not being that important, winning is still fun, right? Human nature kind of dictates that winning is good and losing is bad, but even if losing can suck, it's going to happen, and how to deal with that is a very important thing to learn in life, really, but I'm not here to give you life advice. This is a stupid 40k channel. And I want to note this right off the bat. I know this is a very easy thing for me specifically to say because I'm a content creator with a channel about being bad, so losing is just free content, which helps soften the blow. But that's also where remembering why you're here comes into play. What's the reason you're playing the game? What's the reason you've gone to this event? What's the reason you're playing with your friend? Is it because you want to hang out with that friend, or meet new people, or learn something? Well, hey, congratulations, you've succeeded in doing that regardless of whether you win or lose the actual game. You win if you succeed in your goals for why you're playing. But you are also here to have fun, and sometimes losing isn't fun. Hopefully one of your other reasons to play gives you enough wins. When I get completely destroyed, I still am having fun because of the outside stuff of the game, but that isn't always easy. I'm not perfect. Shocker, I know. But I've been a salty bitch before for whatever reason. When I was younger, I was a pretty poor loser and frankly a pretty poor winner. And I'd love to make a joke here along the lines of, and then I had my 5th birthday. But now I was like that for a long time. I grew out of it eventually, but some people learning to be a good loser does require some effort. I had to put some effort into it. My method of being a good loser is to make it a joke. Being a clown does come naturally to me. At tournaments and events, I try to make light of these situations and try to make my opponent laugh. Just have a joke. That's kind of how I am. You know, hence this silly channel and the weird things I do, like create a body pillow of myself that you can buy at borders-balance-stuff.shop. But that might not be you. So you need to find a way of dealing with loss. Are you at a tournament to learn? Turn it into a learning experience. Ask your opponent questions. Get information from them that they'll be more than happy to share, I'm sure. If you do find it fun to win and that's the thing that you enjoy, hey, you might not win the game, but you can certainly make a new personal win condition. That huge loss against Dark Angels, I turned into a lion hunt. I failed to do that as well, but I knew I wouldn't win the game, so at least I tried something. I've had opponents go Centurion hunting, for example. I've played against a Necron list that had a Tesseract Vault, Monolith, and Silent King. And whilst I lost that game, I was the only person of the 3 other players at that get-together that managed to kill all 3, so I count that as an absolute win. That does not mean that you can't aim to win. I'm going to the London GT, and you know what? I'm going in there, and I'm going to aim to win every game. I'm going to try and go 5-0, but I'm not going to do that at the expense of me or my opponent's fun. If I'm not going to have fun, then why the fuck would I waste all that time and money going to the event? What kind of moron would spend an entire weekend and potentially hundreds of pounds on a hotel, travel, tickets, food, just to be miserable? So how do you become the best player? It's very simple, and it's advice that has been shared and repeated many, many times over the course of history. Don't be a dick. Did I seriously spend nearly 30 minutes just to give you the advice, don't be a dick? Yes. It's up to you to decide whether I failed at my own advice. But thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff. Become a member of Patreon like all of these people who absolutely are not dickheads. And if you want to support me and get something tangible out of it, buy my merch. You can buy some objective markers on my face and use them as masks for bank heists. I don't condone bank robbery. But I mean, if you're going to do it anyway, it would be funny and it'd actually be quite decent publicity for me. But seriously, don't rob banks. I know this is an expensive hobby, but there are better ways to make money. Like tax evasion.
Absolutely